Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive.
Mm.
Today we're embarking on a truly profound journey, one that touches on the very fabric of our existence and, how we navigate it all. Our mission here is to explore a really rich collection of spiritual and philosophical texts. We've got everything from ancient scriptures to modern reflections on consciousness, and we want to confront some really fundamental questions. What is truly real? What parts of our experience are maybe, more illusion than solid fact? And maybe most importantly, how can we navigate our internal worlds and our external ones to find a deeper truth and meaning?
Yeah.
How do we move beyond just perception to real transformation? We've gathered an incredible stack of sources for you, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what insights we can dig up together.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, and what we'll be drilling down into, is how these incredibly diverse traditions, whether we're looking at Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Sufi teachings, or even very contemporary spiritual guidance, they often circle back to remarkably similar ideas. Despite all their varied cultural and historical contexts, they all seem to speak to this shared human quest, this need to understand our consciousness, the nature of the self, and, well, the often pretty challenging path to genuine fulfillment.
Right.
So throughout this deep dive, we'll be dissecting concepts like the startling nature of dreams, the huge, often unrecognized influence our minds have on every single perception.
That big one.
It really is. And then there's the process of spiritual transformation, sometimes arduous, definitely, but ultimately purifying. And this profound idea of universal unity, plus the transformative power of things like love and intention. It's a really rich tapestry of wisdom that offers, I think, not just theories, but actual pathways.
Okay, with that expansive roadmap in mind, let's jump right into what many of these texts suggest is, well, the foundation of our experience. And maybe the biggest surprise of all. Here's where it gets really interesting. Many traditions propose that what we perceive as our solid, undeniable, everyday reality, it might actually be far more fluid, more of a construct than we usually imagine. That really challenges the ground beneath our feet, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If the world we see isn't exactly as it appears, how do we even begin to trust our senses?
It absolutely does challenge our fundamental assumptions. And to start unraveling this, let's first look at the striking parallel between our sleeping dreams and our waking life, and the incredible, often unnoticed, creating power of the mind.
Okay.
A Course in Miracles offers a particularly vivid perspective here. It highlights how dreams, whether we're asleep or, seemingly awake, demonstrate our inherent power to make a world just as we would have it be.
Oh, so.
Well, think about it. When you're caught in a really vivid dream at night, you experience that world, its people, its emotions. And in that moment, you rarely doubt its reality.
Oh, it feels completely real.
Yeah.
Scary sometimes even.
Exactly. You might feel fear, joy, confusion, and those feelings seem entirely legitimate within the dream's context. Yet we instinctively know when we wake up that the entire world of that dream, every character, every setting, every dramatic twist was clearly within your mind, even though it felt external and independent.
Right. It all collapses.
Precisely. And the Course goes a step further. It points out that in our waking lives, we often don't respond to our perceived reality as though we made it. We don't fully grasp that the emotions it produces originate from us.
We blame outside stuff, events, people.
You do. We tend to attribute our experiences to external events or other people, much like how the figures and their actions in a nighttime dream seem to create the experience rather than being projections of our own consciousness. If we truly understood we were making them act, the Course says the guilt wouldn't be theirs, and any illusion of satisfaction, or conflict for that matter, would just vanish. And this leads directly to a profound, almost unsettling statement that all your time is spent in dreaming.
Wow.
All of it.
All of it. The text differentiates only the forms of sleeping and waking dreams, but asserts their content is fundamentally the same. Both are essentially a protest against reality.
Yeah, our fixed and insane idea, as it puts it, that you can change it to suit our ego's desires, rather than accepting what truly is. This implies a continuous, subtle act of creation and interpretation happening within us constantly.
That's a truly powerful and frankly pretty disorienting idea. If all our time is spent in dreaming and our waking life is just another form of the same world you see in dreams, then, well, our personal reality isn't just influenced by our beliefs. It's basically a grand continuous dream shaped by our own internal framework. How do we even begin to navigate that? The Four Agreements really brings this concept into sharper focus, I think. It introduces the idea of our belief system as a kind of book of law that governs our minds.
Right, not a literal book.
No, exactly. It's an internalized set of rules, judgments, assumptions we've picked up throughout our lives. And this book of law then directly shapes our personal dream of life. Everything we believe about ourselves, about others, even about God or the universe. The big problem, as the text explains, is that this can create a fog of false beliefs. This fog isn't just like a minor misunderstanding. It actively blinds us. It makes us believe lies about ourselves, our capabilities, the nature of the world.
And that leads to suffering.
Immense suffering,
Yeah.
because we're constantly bumping up against a reality that contradicts these self-imposed rules. It's like living in a self-imposed matrix,
Yeah.
where the illusion is so complete we don't even realize we're wearing the glasses. And echoing this, the untethered soul points out that true inner freedom requires us to objectively watch our problems instead of getting completely lost in them.
Becoming the observer.
Exactly. It suggests that the real problem is that there is something inside of you that can have a problem with almost anything. We carry around this inner critic, this inner judge, this incessant commentator that continually finds fault, not necessarily with external circumstances themselves, but with our internal experience and interpretation of them.
So the problem isn't out there.
Right. The problem isn't the world, it's our internal response system.
Exactly. And this internal problem-making machine leads us to a deeply held, fabricated reality. And the unreality we often cling to with, well, remarkable tenacity. Conversations with God takes this concept of personal creation even further. It makes the startling assertion, nothing exists separate from you, and everything is your own creation.
Radical.
It is. Our apparent lack of understanding or our sense of being a victim of circumstance, the text explains that's itself a figment of your imagination. Now, this isn't to say that physical events aren't, happening, but our experience and interpretation of them, and thus their impact on our personal reality, are entirely our own doing.
So we're creating the meaning.
We're creating the meaning, the experience. It suggests that moments we consider extraordinary, like out-of-body experiences, incredibly vivid dreams, or those magic moments of wakefulness where things just click, become crystal clear and interconnected.
Yeah.
They're described not as new revelations, but as moments of remembering what we have already created or what we inherently know at a deeper level. It's as if we're constantly authoring our own script and then being surprised by the plot twists we've consciously or unconsciously written in.
Oh.
And this profound idea also ties back to A Course in Miracles, which identifies the special relationship, those intense, often conditional bonds we form based on ego needs.
Yeah, the ones that cause so much drama.
Yeah, exactly. It calls those a determination to keep your hold on unreality and to prevent yourself from waking. It highlights how deeply we invest in these illusions, finding more value in sleeping than in waking. And so we actively resist letting go of the dream. This is a powerful implication about our agency, collective, and individual, not just in perceiving, but in actually shaping our entire experienced reality.
That's a truly paradigm-shifting perspective.
Yeah.
But okay, if everything is, in some deeper sense, our own creation,
Right.
how do these texts address the very real suffering, pain, injustices that seem to be inflicted upon us from outside forces?
Right.
Is it suggesting that even those seemingly external problems are, in some deeper way, reflections of our own creation or our chosen reality? Because that can feel incredibly challenging to accept when we look at, well, the difficulties in the world.
That's a vital and completely understandable question, and it's where the nuance really comes in. These traditions aren't suggesting that we consciously wish for suffering or that a victim is somehow asking for it in a conventional sense. Not at all.
Okay, good.
Rather, they point to a deeper, often unconscious level of creation. Conversations with God, for example, elaborates that maybe we choose certain experiences at the soul level for growth and understanding, even if the personality doesn't remember choosing them. Our individual and collective thought patterns, beliefs, energies, they all contribute to the fabric of perceived reality. So, while a specific tragic event may appear to be purely external, the meaning we ascribe to it, the suffering we endure beyond the initial shock or physical pain, and our subsequent choices, those are entirely within our creative domain.
So the response is key.
The response, the interpretation, the meaning-making. The texts imply that our greatest power lies not in trying to control external events, which is often impossible, but in mastering our internal state and response. It's about recognizing the dreamlike quality of the external world so we can finally wake up to our true power as creators within it.
And if our external reality is a kind of dream, profoundly influenced by our internal landscape, then it begs an even more immediate question. What's actually happening inside us? How do our own thoughts, beliefs, that incessant internal monologue construct the very identity we cling to? And what does that mean for our perception of truth? Let's delve into the mind's internal landscape, that constant barrage of thoughts that defines so much of our waking experience. The Power of Now vividly describes this as the voice in your head, those involuntary thought processes now.
The chatter.
The constant chatter, continuous monologues or dialogues that ceaselessly comment, speculate, judge, compare, complain, like, dislike, all of it. And this voice isn't always relevant to the present moment, is it? It might be reviving past events, replaying arguments, or rehearsing future ones, often imagining negative outcomes, what we commonly call worry or anxiety.
Right, living in the past or future.
Exactly. The text explains that this voice belongs to our conditioned mind, a mind shaped by our personal history, our culture, education, all our past experiences. It interprets the present through the often biased and limited lens of the past, inevitably leading to a totally distorted view. This internal chatter, this incessant mind noise, can truly become a person's own worst enemy, attacking and punishing us with self-criticism and just draining us of vital energy. It's a relentless inner critic and commentator preventing us from experiencing the present moment as it truly is.
That voice you just described from the power of now finds a powerful and immediate parallel in the Four Agreements concept of constant, often negative self-talk. It's as if that incessant internal chatter is the very mechanism through which we write and enforce our own book of law, often, to our own detriment.
Right.
The Four Agreements directly addresses this. It notes that we talk to ourselves constantly, often with profoundly negative self-talk phrases like, I look fat, I look ugly, I'm stupid, I never understand anything, I'm never going to be perfect. We've all heard that voice, right?
Oh, absolutely.
This constant internal judgment, driven by those unexamined rules in our minds, is a primary cause of immense emotional suffering. Extending this idea, the Fifth Agreement then makes a critical differentiation between truth and lies. It states that the real conflict is between the truth and lies, and that all conflict is the result of lies because the truth has no conflict at all. Lies, it explains, are a distortion of the word, a distortion of the meaning of a message. They only exist if we create them and crucially believe in them within the virtual reality of our minds. This suggests that much of our internal and external conflict stems not from objective reality itself, but from our subjective distortions and the false beliefs we entertain.
That's a powerful frame.
And then waking up suggests something even more fundamental. That the conventional self, the I we typically identify with, that coherent, unchanging entity, is in fact an illusion, merely a transitory appearance among transitory appearances.
An illusion, the self.
That's the argument. It even cites compelling scientific evidence, like observations from split-brain patients, where consciousness can be literally divisible. This profoundly challenges the long-held idea of a single, indivisible, immortal soul. The sense of a unified, enduring self is presented as an illusion, making consciousness itself more fundamental than any apparent temporary self.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
The idea that our conventional sense of self is an illusion and that so much of our perceived reality, our suffering, our conflicts are rooted in mental constructs and unexamined beliefs. It makes you wonder, then, what the path to real freedom looks like if the very foundation of our identity is questioned. The untethered soul offers a crucial initial thought here, suggesting that to attain true inner freedom, you must be able to objectively watch your problems instead of being lost in them.
The witnessing stance.
Exactly. It's that profound shift from being the experiencer swept away by everything to becoming the observer of your experience. It proposes a critical shift from what it calls outer solution consciousness, which is that relentless, often exhausting process of constantly trying to rearrange external circumstances, people, situations to make ourselves feel better.
Which usually doesn't work long term.
Right, to inner solution consciousness. This means going inside, and rather than fighting with or judging our thoughts and emotions, simply allowing them to pass by as objects of consciousness, like watching clouds drift across the sky. It's about letting go of the part of you that has so many problems with reality, understanding that you are not those thoughts, you are not those emotions. This really sounds like the first step in a very intentional journey inward.
Indeed. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, many spiritual traditions provide clear, often rigorous pathways to purify the mind and transform one's inner state, precisely by moving beyond these self-created illusions and attachments. This isn't, a passive process. It often involves deep, sometimes painful, engagement with our internal world, a deliberate letting go of what we thought was real.
And sometimes this inward journey leads to what are universally known as difficult spiritual trials.
Mm.
We hear about the intense concept of the dark night of the soul, so vividly described by St. John of the Cross.
A classic description of a certain phase.
Definitely. He speaks of a purgation of sense, which isn't just a passing feeling, but an intense, often painful spiritual cleansing. The soul loses its taste and desire for everything that is not God. Our ordinary attractions, our comforts, even previous spiritual consolations start to feel dry, meaningless, or even, well, repugnant. This experience isn't pleasant. It's accompanied by arduous trials and temptations that really test our faith and resolve. St. John also notes what he calls aridities, periods where the memory is centered on God with painful care and solicitude, this intense longing, yet the soul feels a distinct lack of sweetness or presence in divine things. This often leads to the mistaken belief that one is backsliding or has fallen out of grace.
Which must be incredibly confusing.
Terribly confusing. But he meticulously differentiates this profound aridity from mere lukewarmness or spiritual laziness. The key distinction, he explains, is its solicitude with care and grief. The soul is genuinely troubled by its perceived distance from God, its inability to feel divine sweetness. It's not indifference, but a profound, painful longing for a connection that paradoxically feels absent. It's a dark, disorienting void that forces us to question everything.
These difficult experiences, though undeniably painful and disorienting, they really serve a crucial purpose in the grander scheme of spiritual transformation. In Interior Castle, St. Teresa of Avila speaks of souls in the first mansions. People who've begun their journey are in a state of grace, but are still, well, very much in love with the venomous creatures outside the castle.
A great metaphor.
Is it? She's describing persistent attachments to worldly things, egoic desires, occasions of sin that still hold sway. Such souls, she explains, require a long and searching discipline to progress deeper into the castle of their inner self. God, she says, proves those who are in these mansions, sometimes with tests which have been by no means exacting in an objective sense, but which cause great restlessness and depression because they directly challenge these cherished attachments.
They hit where it hurts, basically.
Exactly. And St. John of the Cross further elaborates that the light and wisdom of this contemplation is most bright and pure, an unfiltered divine presence. But when this pure, unadulterated light assails a dark and impure soul, one still clinging to illusions and ego, it causes immense pain. The soul feels so impure and miserable that it believes God to be against it, believing it's been cast away or is unworthy. This suffering, though agonizing, is a direct and necessary result of the deeply ingrained impurity being confronted, burned away, and expelled by that penetrating divine light. It's like a spiritual detox, forcing a complete surrender of the ego, stripping away all that isn't truly essential so that true reality can finally be perceived without distortion.
It seems then that suffering in these contexts isn't just something to be avoided or a sign we messed up. It can be a profound, even necessary catalyst for growth and purification. Pema Chodron, in When Things Fall Apart, notes that suffering is inevitable for human beings as long as we believe that things last.
That attachment to permanence.
Right. When we cling to permanence in a transient world, pain is basically guaranteed. She explains that when the rug's been pulled out, when our illusions are shattered and we're plunged into groundlessness, these disorienting situations can either wake us up or to put ourselves to sleep. The choice in those moments of profound vulnerability is entirely ours. Do we resist, retreat, numb ourselves, or do we lean into the discomfort and allow it to transform us? Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning powerfully illustrates this. It suggests that suffering, when embraced and given purpose, can lead to profound meaning. His harrowing account of prisoners in concentration camps vividly portrays the relative nature of human suffering and the astonishing capacity for internal protection, for finding meaning even in the most horrific, externally controlled circumstances.
It's incredible.
It really is. It highlights an inner freedom, the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances that cannot be taken away, even in the face of unimaginable loss and degradation. It points to the incredible resilience and transformative potential of the human spirit when confronted with its limits.
And moving beyond simply enduring suffering, these traditions also detail active processes. Practices of self-denial and cultivation designed to accelerate this profound internal transformation. Siddhartha, for example, offers a vivid description of practicing self-denial, practiced meditation, deliberately abstaining from worldly pleasures, rigorously training the mind.
Like the ascetics.
Exactly. It details learning to calm the heart, to stop breathing at will, and to slip out of the self into thousands of other forms, mentally becoming an animal, carrion, stone, wood, water. The ultimate goal here isn't just escapism, but to dissolve the rigid boundaries of the ego, to escape the cycle of suffering driven by attachment to a limited self, and to reach an eternity without suffering by realizing one's true, boundless nature.
Fascinating.
Similarly, the Cloud of Unknowing, a powerful mystical text, advises lifting the hunt to God with a meek stirring of love, meaning focusing solely on himself and none of his goods. It stresses the importance of forgetting all the creatures that ever God made and the works of them, letting thoughts and desires be directed only to God. This isn't about ignoring the world, but about purifying intention and focus, making the soul's work pure.
Concentrating the energy.
Precisely. And the perennial philosophy describes a practice of stopping by tranquilizing the mind, consciously discarding all ideation, even the very notions of controlling and discarding, to make the mind like a mirror. The aim is to realize mind itself of its pure, undifferentiated essence, to experience the fundamental nature of consciousness beyond all its contents and concepts. It's about shedding layers until you reach the unadulterated source of awareness itself.
So it's not just about what we stop doing or what we endure. It's profoundly about what we actively cultivate and the conscious intention behind our actions. Theologia Germanica powerfully emphasizes not seeking one's own benefit, either in things spiritual or natural, but solely the honor of God.
A total reorientation.
Completely. It calls for striving to obey God's commandments so thoroughly that nothing, spiritual or natural, which opposeth God, remains within us. This isn't about rigid legalism, but about a complete alignment of one's will and actions with a higher divine purpose, totally transcending self-interest. This complete alignment, it seems, is the very essence of spiritual purity. The Way of a Pilgrim from the Eastern Orthodox tradition also advocates for mortifying earthly aspects, drawing on Colossians 3:5. This means enduring physical exertion through practices like constant prayer, prostrations, and purifying the soul to make it a welcoming home for God. The aim is to fulfill divine commandments not just externally, but by opening the innermost eyes of the heart, allowing divine presence to permeate one's entire being. And in the Bhagavad Gita as it is, we learn about Buddha Yoga, which is defined as action in kunta consciousness, an unwavering devoted service to the divine. This is described as the highest intelligence for escaping the entanglement of this material world and its endless cycle of karma. It states that one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. This highlights that through action, devotion, and higher intelligence, one can achieve liberation and a deeper, unified state of being.
And what's crucial to understand across these diverse approaches, I think, is that the self-denial isn't about self-punishment in a negative sense. It's about reprioritizing our deepest desires.
Shifting focus.
Exactly. Moving from the temporary satisfaction of the ego and its attachments to the lasting fulfillment that comes from aligning with a higher truth. Whether it's the ascetic practices of Siddhartha or the devotional service of the Bhagavad Gita, the common thread is a deliberate, conscious reorientation of our entire being towards that which is eternal rather than transient. It's a radical transformation of one's entire operating system, from ego-driven to spirit-led.
We've covered a significant landscape today. From the elusive nature of our perceived reality and the mind's creating power, to the deep internal work required to transcend these illusions and purify ourselves. Now, as we connect the dots, what does this all mean when we expand our view to a larger understanding? How do these individual journeys of profound transformation link to a broader universal truth, to the divine itself? And how do we perceive that unity?
This is truly where we start to see profound convergences across traditions, where the unique paths lead to a strikingly similar destination. The idea of God, or the ultimate reality, as an all-encompassing force, a unity beyond mere diversity. Conversations with God posits God not as an anthropomorphic man in the sky, but as a force, an energy in the universe that is the universe, and that is, in fact, all that is.
Wow.
It directly challenges the conventional either assumption that often limits our understanding, urging us instead to consider a more expansive both-hand perspective. And the text suggests something truly radical and initially quite difficult to grasp. You are creating God.
How does that work?
It's not literal creation in the usual sense, but rather a profound assertion that we are continuously defining and experiencing the divine through our very lives and choices. It states that life itself exists as a tool for God, and for us, as extensions of God, to turn abstract concept into concrete experience. The profound statement, "You and I are one," encapsulates this ultimate unity, implying there's no fundamental separation between our individual consciousness and the divine source. Deep.
Very. And the 7 spiritual laws of success echoes this with its description of pure consciousness as our essential state, pure potentiality, the field of all possibilities and infinite creativity. This is also termed the law of unity, emphasizing that underlying the infinite diversity of life is the unity of one all-pervasive spirit. There is fundamentally no separation, it states, between you and this boundless field of energy. The field of pure potentiality is, in essence, your own true self.
That concept of fundamental unity, that there's no actual separation, is so central to so many different paths. It suggests a deeper reality that underpins everything we perceive. The perennial philosophy articulates this beautifully, stating that an ultimate physical identity underlies the apparent physical diversity of the world, and that all apparently independent existents are in fact interdependent.
Like the waves in the ocean. Exactly. Like looking at individual waves, believing they're separate entities, but failing to see the single ocean that comprises them all. The text goes on to explain that mystics, through their deep spiritual practices, gain direct experience of a spiritual unity that underlies the apparent diversity of individual consciousnesses. They come to understand, not just intellectually, but experientially, that personality isn't an ultimate fixed fact and can be transcended. This merging into a greater impersonal consciousness is a direct felt experience, not just a theory. Then we have Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance, which in its own unique way introduces the concept of quality. This isn't just about craftsmanship or excellence. It's a profound, almost mystical term for something all-pervading and inexhaustible, described as the fountainhead of all things, an image of what existed before God.
Hard to define.
Very. It is form of the formless, the image of nothingness, elusive and indefinable, yet continuously present as the underlying reality of everything. And delving way back into ancient Greek philosophy, the Enneads by Plotinus discusses the one as transcending being. Okay, to unpack that. Plotinus is describing something beyond even existence itself.
Beyond being.
Beyond being. It's not a thing that exists, but the ultimate, simple, uncaused source from which all existence, all consciousness, all complexity ultimately flow. It's the absolute ground of reality, prior to any individual form or thought. So fundamental that our ordinary ways of thinking, our intellection, merge with what we're trying to understand, becoming one with it, meaning that which is intelligible is one with the act of intellection. It's this profound unity at the highest level of reality, suggesting the very act of knowing something utterly merges with the known.
And this unity isn't just an abstract philosophical concept. As fascinating as those descriptions are, it's something that can be profoundly experienced on a deeply personal, transformative level. The Varieties of Religious Experience by William James includes an incredibly moving account of a personal encounter with this ultimate reality.
Tell us.
It describes an individual experiencing the presence of God as if his goodness and his power were penetrating me altogether, feeling raised above myself, elevated beyond their ordinary state of being. The individual recognized that God was present, though invisible. He fell under no one of my senses, yet my consciousness perceived him.
Wow, direct perception.
Direct perception. The experience was so powerful that it fundamentally transformed their personality, leaving them with the sense of having had a communication even more intimate and profound than Moses on Sinai, as the account puts it. It underscores that this ultimate reality, while beyond our physical senses and often beyond words, is deeply perceivable and intimately felt through consciousness itself. It's a direct, undeniable inner knowing that bypasses the limitations of intellectual understanding and sensory input, leaving an indelible mark on the individual's entire perception of self and the universe.
Wow, that's an incredibly vivid and transformative experience. It truly underscores how deeply this unity can be felt, beyond mere intellectual understanding or philosophical abstraction. It makes you wonder then, if this profound sense of unity is truly perceivable through consciousness, and if everything is interconnected, how does that fundamentally reframe our understanding of individual action? If we're all part of this interconnected divine energy, how do our intentions, our choices manifest in that grand scheme? This brings us to the understanding of universal laws, particularly cause and effect, the power of our intentions, and what authentic power truly means. The seat of the soul introduces the universal law of cause and effect, which isn't just about simple physics like billiard balls hitting each other.
Right, it's deeper.
Much deeper. It governs the creation of both physical and non-physical effects by non-physical causes. And the text directly links this to our intentions, stating that your intentions are the non-physical causes that create your experiences. This is a profound shift from seeing ourselves as passive recipients of events to active co-creators, becoming deeply aware of your moment-to-moment intentions, really tuning into why you're doing what you're doing, saying what you're saying, even thinking what you're thinking, and then looking for the connections between these intentions and the experiences you encounter. That's key.
Mindful intention.
Absolutely. This conscious observation, this mindful awareness of our inner landscape's impact on our outer reality, the text suggests, is what ultimately leads to mastery over our experience and the creation of authentic power. It's about aligning our inner world with the universal flow.
Precisely. This understanding radically shifts us from being passive subjects of fate to becoming conscious generators of reality. The 7 spiritual laws of success directly links the law of karma or cause and effect to this very idea, becoming a conscious generator of reality. It suggests that by becoming a conscious choice maker, by bringing awareness to every decision, you begin to generate actions that are evolutionary beneficial for you and for those around you, rather than just reactive or destructive.
How do we do that?
Well, the text provides 2 crucial questions to ask before making any choice, big or small. First, what are the consequences of this choice? And second, will this choice bring fulfillment and happiness to me and also to those who are affected by this choice? This thoughtful, intentional approach allows one to align with the universal law, ensuring our actions ripple outwards in a positive, constructive way. And authentic power from the seat of the soul is further described as the alignment of the personality with the soul. This isn't about external control or dominance over others, it's an inner congruence.
And integrity.
Yes, integrity is a good word. This alignment requires consistently choosing love, and the text defines this as universal, non-conditional love, no matter what is going on inside us, such as anger, jealousy, or resentment, or what is going on outside us, such as another 9/11 attack, an illness, or the death of a child. It's about maintaining an unwavering commitment to a higher vibrational state, an inner spiritual integrity, regardless of the challenges or emotional turmoil. It acknowledges the reality of pain and suffering, but asserts our power to choose our response to it from a place of love and alignment.
That's a profound commitment to inner alignment, especially in the face of intense difficulty. And to truly activate these universal laws, particularly the law of pure potentiality, the 7 spiritual laws of success emphasizes the law of giving. The core principle is profoundly simple, yet often feels counterintuitive in our transactional world. To learn to give that which you seek.
Give what you want to receive.
Exactly. If you desire affluence, the text advises give affluence maybe by sharing your resources or supporting others' prosperity. If you seek love, give love, appreciation, affection. This isn't about a transactional exchange where you give just to get something back immediately.
Right, not like putting a coin in a machine.
Yeah, no, it's about establishing a flow, a conscious emanation of the very energy you wish to attract into your life. It's about understanding that the universe operates on a principle of circulation. This aligns perfectly with the Tao Te Ching, which beautifully states, the sage acts without action and teaches without talking. The sage gives but not to receive, works but not for reward, completes but not for results, doing nothing for oneself in this passing world so that nothing he does ever passes. It's a selfless, harmonious participation in the universal flow, understanding that true abundance comes from a continuous outflow, from being a conduit rather than just a container. It's an incredibly liberating concept that shifts our perspective from scarcity to boundless potential.
And this brings us really to a crucial question for all of us. How do we actually embody these profound truths about the nature of reality, the journey of transformation, universal principles? How do we live this stuff in our daily lives and interactions with the world and each other? It moves us from philosophy and personal practice to the practical application, particularly through things like love, compassion, and conscious action in our relationships.
And at the very heart of that practical application for so many traditions is the profound power of love and interpersonal connection. The art of loving posits that the desire for interpersonal fusion is the most powerful striving in man. It's not just a nice feeling, but the most fundamental passion that quite literally keeps the human race together.
It's essential.
Absolutely essential. Without this fundamental drive for connection, for merging with another, humanity could not exist for a day. It's a biological, psychological, and spiritual imperative. However, The text critically observes that most people mistakenly see love primarily as being loved, as a passive state of receiving affection or validation, rather than focusing on loving, of one's capacity to love, which is an active internal capacity we need to cultivate.
So it's about giving, not just getting.
Exactly. This societal misconception, it argues, leads to a preoccupation with being lovable through superficial means, striving to be successful, powerful, rich, physically attractive. It's a focus on external validation and performance, rather than cultivating one's inherent capacity for deep, authentic connection and self-giving.
That's a truly crucial distinction, and it leads us to differentiate what constitutes true love from its many counterfeits or conditional expressions. Conversations with God declares with striking clarity, love has no requirements. That's what makes it love.
No conditions.
Zero conditions. The moment love carries requirements, expectations, demands for reciprocity, then it is not love at all, but some counterfeit version. It's an agreement, maybe a transaction, sometimes even a manipulation, but it's not pure love. The art of loving further challenges societal constructs, like traditional marriage vows, which often contain conditional language, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, suggesting they ask what true unconditional love would never ask, because true love simply is, regardless of circumstance. Rumi's Masnavi, that profound collection of mystical poems, reinforces this boundless and unmeasurable nature of true love. He states, true love cannot be measured, which is why it is said to be an attribute of God in reality, and applicable to the slave only metaphorically. This highlights that divine love is inherently unconditional, infinite, immeasurable, a boundless force that just pours itself out without any expectation or limitation. For humans, our expressions of love are often mere reflections or metaphors of this divine prototype, always striving towards that same boundless, unconditioned state.
And as an essential extension of that boundless, unconditional love, we find compassion, right? Radical acceptance speaks directly to the practice of reaching out for compassion, sharing the poignant story of Marion, who was tortured by shame and guilt over her daughter's abuse.
Such difficult emotions.
Extremely difficult. The text highlights the critical need for accepting and kind attention directly to the experience of such intense pain, rather than trying to push it away, deny it, or judge it. It emphasizes that healing begins not with fixing, but with acknowledging and holding one's own suffering with gentleness. Pema Chodron, in When Things Fall Apart, connects this to the Buddhist concept of bodhicitta, which she describes as a fundamental tenderness for life. This tenderness, she explains, is truly awakened when we can no longer shield ourselves from the inherent vulnerability, impermanence, and fragility of existence, both our own and the world's. It's a deep, open-hearted response to suffering.
Opening to the pain.
Yes. She encourages us to take it all in. You let the pain of the world touch your heart and you turn it into compassion, transforming personal suffering into universal empathy and a profound desire to alleviate the suffering of others. It's about not closing down in the face of pain, but opening wider.
Beyond these vital inner states of love and compassion, these insights also fundamentally call for ethical living and the consistent cultivation of virtue in our actions. The Dhammapada, a collection of Buddhist teachings, includes powerful verses reminding us of profound personal responsibility. By oneself is wrong done, by oneself is one defiled, by oneself wrong is not done, by oneself surely is one cleansed, one cannot purify another, purity and impurity are in oneself alone.
It's all on us, ultimately.
Ultimately, yes. It emphasizes that our moral state is entirely our own making. We can't rely on others to cleanse us. It also powerfully states, forbearing patience is the highest austerity. Nibbana is supreme, the awakened ones say, underscoring the immense spiritual power of patience, not harming, and endurance in the face of adversity as a path to ultimate liberation. Theologia Germanica, a mystical Christian text, speaks of a true, just life such as God loveth and estimeth, a life lived in profound alignment with divine will. In such a life, all self-will, I, mine, me, and the like is lost.
The ego dissolves.
Completely. This is the ultimate surrender of the ego, where nothing is purposed or sought but goodness for the sake of goodness and as goodness. It's a life lived not for self-gain, not for reward, not for reputation, but as a pure and selfless expression of divine goodness itself, motivated by nothing other than love for the good.
This brings us full circle then to the idea of action guided by a higher purpose or duty rather than just egoic desires. The Bhagavad Gita as it is profoundly emphasizes devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, urging one to surrender their soul completely.
Surrender.
By doing so, one becomes freed from the control of material nature, and is guided instead by divine nature. This is described again as Buddha yoga, taking fully decanted consciousness in devotional service as the most intelligent path to liberation. It's not about inaction, but about right action, performed with detachment from results as an offering to the divine. And in a vastly different tradition, The Cost of Discipleship by Dietrich Bonhoeffer describes the cross laid on every Christian as the call to abandon the attachments of this world, a profound, radical detachment from all worldly security and possessions.
A demanding path.
Very demanding. It's presented as a dying of the old man that results from an authentic encounter with Christ, a daily process of surrendering oneself to Christ in union with his death. This means a continuous letting go of ego, of self-will, of worldly desires, embracing a life of service and sacrifice. Both traditions, though distinct, point to a radical reorientation of one's life towards a higher spiritual calling, demanding profound self-transformation.
And ultimately, what all these traditions seem to converge upon is that this journey of transformation and ethical living, it's a continuous process. It's not a final destination you simply arrive at and then you're done.
Right, it's ongoing work.
Exactly. The Philokalia, a collection of texts from the Eastern Orthodox tradition, reminds us that even at the height of virtue and spiritual attainment, ascetic effort is still needed in order to curb the disorderly impulses of the body and to keep a watch on our thoughts. It's a lifelong commitment to inner discipline, mindfulness, purification, and ongoing vigilance against the pull of ego and illusion. Yet, this doesn't have to be seen just as a burden. The untethered soul beautifully proposes that by ceasing the absurdity of listening to the perpetual problems of your psyche, by learning to observe that inner commentator without identifying with it, your daily life can actually become like a vacation.
A vacation, really.
That's the idea. Work can be fun, family can be fun. You can simply enjoy all of it, living life without constantly fearing it, fighting it, or being lost in internal drama. This sustained inner work eventually leads to an abiding peace, love, and compassion that transforms every moment, making life itself a joyful expression of awakened consciousness.
Wow. We've covered such a vast landscape today, truly diving deep into the elusive nature of our waking dreams and the mind's incredible creating power. We then journeyed through the profound call for inner purification, through challenging trials and deliberate self-cultivation. And finally, we arrived at the expansive vision of a unified reality, where our intentions and unconditional love become the source of authentic power. Across all these diverse and rich sources, a powerful recurring theme emerges, doesn't it? The immense power that resides within you, within each of us to discern truth from illusion, to embark on your own deeply personal journey of self-discovery, and to cultivate a life of profound purpose, boundless love, and unwavering compassion. It's really a call to conscious living, to becoming the architect of your inner world, and by extension, your perceived outer reality.
And this deep dive, well, by design, it raises an important question for you to consider long after our conversation wraps up. If, as these traditions suggest, the dream of our current reality is largely shaped by our minds and past conditioning, and if true love genuinely has no requirements, what singular, unwavering choice would you make today, right now, to align with your deepest understanding of reality and consciously contribute to a world defined by that choice? As the way of a pilgrim reminds us sometimes, the most profound insights come not from external searching, but from within. Sit in the silence of your cell and it will teach you everything. What quiet wisdom is waiting for you when you choose to truly listen?